Hello, and welcome to Emotional Survival for First Responders. My name is Don Pemberton, and I am the First Responder Life Coach. First, allow me to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 22-year veteran of emergency services, and I became a firefighter because of my dad. My dad was a volunteer firefighter, and I thought it was the coolest thing when I was growing up that he would get a page and rush off and go help people. He would attend training and activities in the community. And I knew when I graduated high school that I wanted to be a firefighter myself. So shortly after graduating high school, I became a volunteer firefighter. I attended the local community college, and I went off and got my paramedic license. The first few years of my career, I was spent in the San Jose area in Santa Clara County American Medical Response. Spent about 3 years there, and then I was hired back as a full-time firefighter paramedic with the Half Moon Bay Fire Protection District. I was there for a short period of time, and then I took a position as a firefighter paramedic in East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area as a firefighter paramedic with the City of Alameda Fire Department. After about 4 years, we were introduced by my mother-in-law to the Southwest area, and we purchased a home in Southern Utah, and I'm currently employed as a firefighter paramedic in the City of Henderson Fire Department. I have 3 daughters and my wife, and we love spending time together and outside. It seems like every time we meet new people as first responders, you're going to get the common questions and the comments. You're a firefighter. That's so cool. I bet you have some stories. What's the craziest call you've ever been on? Have you rescued a cat out of a tree? And is it just like on TV? Well, I want to take this opportunity to answer some of those questions. One of the most difficult calls in my career occurred early as a paramedic. I was responding as a one-on-one paramedic on an AMR ambulance. We were posted up and we were sent to a single motor vehicle accident on the side of the freeway. As we approached the vehicle, I saw there was damage to the front of the windshield. And as I approached the patient, I opened the door and the patient slid to the side of their seat. They were restrained by their seatbelt, and 3/4 of their head had been removed by an object that flew through the windshield and through the side of their head. At the time, the patient had a pulse. They were still trying to breathe, but I was looking literally into the center of their head. At that time, we got the patient out as fast as possible. We packaged the patient. We tried to slow down the bleeding, and we got them on a backboard and started going to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, it seemed like nothing went right. Their blood pressure was so low, I couldn't get an IV in them. He was clenched down. I was unable to facilitate an intubation. And I arrived at the hospital completely soaked in blood, in brain fluid, in everything that you can imagine. And we dropped the patient off at the hospital. As you can imagine, after we turned over the patient to the hospital, we had a lot of cleanup to do. And so we were in the ambulance bay cleaning up and getting our equipment back together when I saw a woman who was carrying her kids, and she was running for the hospital. And when she got inside, I could hear her screaming and crying, and I could hear her kids crying, and that was her husband that had been we brought to the hospital. That in a split second, she had her entire life changed. And it was one of those things that I probably will never forget. Another call early in my career was we were called to assist the police department. Apparently there had been a shot fired inside a Starbucks, and we were staged, and there was an individual that walked into a Starbucks with a handgun. He sat on the toilet and he shot himself in the head. And they requested that medical come in. I didn't quite understand what it meant then, but I do now. It's when they request, send in one paramedic to confirm that the patient is deceased. And so I went in not being told what to expect, not being able to kind of prepare myself. And I walked into the Starbucks bathroom, and there was a gentleman sitting on the toilet with most of his head splattered against the wall. That image stays with me. every time I go into a bathroom that matches that description, every time I go into, something like that, I see that flash in my head, and it's just there. Another incident that was very difficult was a pediatric cardiac arrest. We were dispatched to a patient that was not breathing. As the notes came in, it came in as a 6-month-old that was unconscious and unresponsive. As we got there, the 6-year-old was at daycare. They had a sleeping bag, and the kids were playing hide and seek. And the sleeping bag had a tapered end. The child crawled into the back of the sleeping bag, and in the taper, his head got stuck in the back there, and he was unable to breathe, and nobody noticed him for a while. And we received the child, their dead, lifeless body, as we arrived. I took several of the firefighters with me, and we grabbed him, and we did everything we could on the way to the hospital. And he didn't make it. And I didn't have children at the time, but all of the other firefighters that I was with, they all had kids about that age. And they told me straight up, it's like, I wasn't working on someone else's kid, I was working on my kid. And it was a very, very difficult call. One of the last ones was at a transit station. Someone was trying to evade the police, and in his haste to get away from the police department, he was on a platform of a transit station, and he leaped from the top of the stairs down the up escalator, and he must have tripped or he must have fallen, because it was like he was falling down the escalator, and the teeth of the escalator just completely mangled and annihilated almost every square inch of his body. To this day, that was the bloodiest call that I've ever been on. We got him wrapped up and packaged, and he was still alive, but there wasn't a single part of his body that hadn't been chewed up by the teeth on the escalator.